Krista, thank you for talking with me today.
Thanks for having me.
I would like to know what brought you in this business. What do you like about it?
So I was actually just moving back to Florida from Louisiana. I'm from here, but I lived out there for a while and moved back. And I was working a temporary job, and the owner of Magnolia now, which then worked at Fidelity, called me to just answer phones for the week because their receptionist had taken off for finals. And I went and answered phones, and I just thought it was really interesting, so I never left. I kind of learned how to do everything, and here I am.
And how long ago has it been?
I've been in the business about 10 years now.
10 years. So I'm sure that brought you lots of experience and knowledge to it.
Well, we'll never know it all because it's ever changing.
That's right.
But yeah, there's always something new, some new curveball they'll throw at you for a closing. But yeah,
Absolutely.
very interesting stuff.
Same like in all of our industry that's related like this, it's always live and learn, right? Because
Exactly.
everything's evolving. So Krista, what are the typical costs that buyers should expect to pay at closing?
So typical costs are going to be, as far as lenders concerned, origination fee, appraisal fee, credit report fee, MERS registration fee if that's applicable. Depending on the type of loan, there might be like a VA funding fee or upfront mortgage insurance premium if it's FHA, things like that. Survey, closing costs for the title company, and then whatever the policies are that they're paying for, so a loan policy. And those can all vary depending on the loan amount, sales price, and the lender and title company you're closing with.
Right, because we also have prepaids and we have escrows and all these things that are included in closing costs, and they will depend.
Well, escrows, is good to know that it's actually your money. I mean, they're not charging you that just to charge you that for closing fees.
Right.
It's going into an account that's going to cover your future bills. So it's going to cover your homeowner's insurance, and it's going to cover your property taxes. So it's your money going into another account that I wouldn't consider it a closing cost.
Well,
yeah. I mean, it's part of the closing, yes,
right.
but you get it back. Yeah, exactly.
Right. We're going to make a whole new video about just escrows to kind of break it open and break it apart to make it more digestible.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. What are some of the unexpected costs that first-time home buyers might have to pay and they're not aware of that?
What I have seen mostly is fees that are associated with HOAs. So properties that fall under homeowners associations can have fees that may not be disclosed up front, like capital contribution fees, community enhancement fees, transfer fees that need to be paid to the management company. On my own personal closing, for example, we had a $500 capital contribution and a $250 transfer fee to the management company. So $750 that we didn't know about until I got the final statement.
So it's tricky.
Yep.
And sometimes I see CDD on closing disclosure. What is CDD?
That is Community Development District, and that is similar to an HOA and is community specific. So a lot of times it gets collected on the property tax bill annually, but it covers things like street lights, roads, things like that are community specific.
And often like they show up as a part of HOAs, sometimes they show up as a
sometimes taxes, it is listed sometimes it is listed with the HOA. Most times that I do see it, it's on the tax bill, which it does get prorated, and majority of the time it's in the non-ad valorem section of the tax bill, which actually runs in advance, so it ends up being a charge to the buyer where they're crediting it back to the seller since they've already prepaid it.
Right, because those are getting prepaid in advance.
Exactly.
Unlike the county taxes. Right, all right, awesome. Krista, have you seen any particular unusual fees on the title portion of the closing disclosure?
I do have some clients that will send me some different settlement statements just asking if these fees are normal, like say they're on the buyer's side and they get the final and they're like, I feel like this is expensive. So I have seen a lot of just either really high closing fees, settlement fees, or they're just charging a lot of additional stuff. So for example, we'll see technology fees, we'll see mobile notary fees, wire charges, a wire fee to send out wires, multiple shipping fees. Those are the ones that I've seen most frequently, but for us, we take the majority of those cost of doing business fees out of our settlement fee automatically. So our fee is $5.99 to either side, and then we will cover a mobile notary fee from that fee. We'll cover one of them. So if there's 8 sellers or something like that, then obviously the additional notary fees would be applied, but we cover one on us straight out of the closing
for
fee.
each side. That's excellent, because mobile notary is like $250, $300 sometimes.
Yeah, they can
Excellent
be.
value. And you don't charge technology, you don't charge wire.
No, we don't charge any of that. We
File
just charge our
storage?
settlement fee. No. Nope, just the settlement fee, and then we'll cover a mobile notary fee out of that.
So just so we can understand, all those fees, they're not mandated by the state, they're not mandated by the regulators. This is just something that the title companies might charge
Yes.
in order to cover some of their own expenses.
Yes,
Okay,
that's correct.
excellent. Good to know. I think this question will be useful for everybody who's watching this video. Krista, what are some strategies that you think are effective in saving money on closing costs?
I would say to review your contract. So if you look at page 3 and 4 of the regular sales contract, it shows options on who is designating and paying for title. That will show owner's title policy, fees, and charges, and that includes the title search, municipal lien search, and the owner's policy. If the buyer's box is selected for the buyer to pay, they would designate the closing agent and in addition pay those fees.
So let's break it down. So on the page 3 of the contract, it shows who is paying for what seller is paying for, what buyer is paying for, and on the page 4, the buyer actually selects a box who is going to choose the title company, correct?
Exactly, yes.
And if the buyer chooses the title company, the buyer will be responsible to pay for municipal search,
Municipal lien search, title search, and the
search.
owner's policy, in addition to their normal
in
loan
addition
policy
to the
costs.
regular fees. Okay, and what money are we talking about? Like municipal search, would it be like?
Municipal lien search depends. The fee for that depends on where the property is located and what municipalities surround it. So usually there's a base fee of about $125, and then if the municipalities charge a fee to obtain the information, then that would get added on top of it.
So it will be like within $200.
Typically, depending on the area, yeah.
And then the title search, what money are we talking here?
Ours is only $75, regardless of what underwriter we use. I have actually seen where title companies charge exceedingly more than that, but that's not typical. So ours is $75, unless it's like a commercial property or something. Those are a lot more.
All right, so we're talking 75, and tops would be
I'd say like 150, 200.
200. All right, so it's another 200. So let's say $400, and then would be the owner's policy.
The owner's policy is based on a calculation based on the sales price. So depending on what the sales price is, it would be a percentage. Let's say a calculation.
All right. So we're talking about probably within $1,000. The buyer will have to pay additional at least $1,000 more if they choose their own title. So it's always more beneficial for the buyer to go with the title chosen by the seller.
So the seller, 90% of the time in our area, the seller is going to be paying for those fees and choosing the title company. That is standard in our area. The other thing that you can do to help curb some of the cost is to request from them if they have an existing survey that was recently done that hasn't had any changes made to it. So if they just bought the house 3 years ago and they haven't installed a pool or made any, made an addition on the home or anything like that, and they can sign an affidavit that says, there haven't been any changes made, then you can use that survey for closing, and that would save you about $300+.
Right.
Yeah.
So if they put the fence for their dog, it's not gonna work.
Typically, no.
Right. Right.
If they replace an existing fence, then that would be okay. If it was an installation of a new fence that wasn't there before, then that wouldn't be okay.
Proper. Yeah, gotcha. And that survey that they have, it has to be, the seller's name has to be on that survey.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
No, because they could have done the same thing where they signed, you know, they asked for the, exactly, they asked for an affidavit. So as long as they signed off on that, then it should be acceptable to use.
Good to know. So, quick question and quick insight. If, let's say, if you were buying a house today, what would you like to know about the closing costs?
So I would want to review the costs as far in advance of the closing as possible, just so I would be prepared, you know, on what fees I'm going to be paying at closing. I don't want any surprises. I want to know what they are, and you know, have a closing date of when I am going to be expected to pay those. So I will stress the importance of just making sure that you're reviewing your loan estimates and any of your preliminary closing statements, so that you know what to expect.
So these fees usually you will find first on your loan estimate, and then they will come out on your closing disclosure.
Exactly.
Closing disclosure is normally more accurate than the loan estimate, because that's where you can see all the fees already verified with all the providers.
Yep,
Right.
exactly.
And how often do you see people that come to the closing table and then they get like heart attack condition of the fees on it?
It's not super often, but sometimes people are busy, especially when they're going through a loan process. They get bombarded with all kinds of information
Super
and all kinds of
stressful,
emails. So they may be in a high stress situation where they just haven't looked or paid attention. You know, majority of the time it is on the estimates, but if they haven't taken notice to that, then they come to closing and they're like, wow, this is more than I expected, or things like that. But it's usually not a deal breaker. I mean, it is what it is, so.
Right. And the reason we're recording this video, so you guys can actually know what are those fees, you know how to save on those fees, and make sure that you're aware of what you're paying for and you're comfortable, prepared, and totally armed to become a homeowner and be educated in that process.
Exactly.
Well, thank you, Krista, for giving us this knowledge, because I think it's super, super important.
Agreed.
Especially for first-time home buyers who don't know what they're signing, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a learning process, especially for first-time home buyers. You know, they don't see what we see every day, so even the lingo, you know, is new to them. So it's important to make videos like this. So I appreciate you doing it.
Oh, thank you. See you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.